Hello, and welcome to That Red and Blue. Tonight, I want to talk about why Trump won. In particular, I want to look at this debate, and I want to talk about these two individuals, just the archetype alone. Here on the left, we have what would be considered the liberal Destiny, which, if you don't know, he is a political commentator, very well known. He is primarily on Twitch. And the guy on the right, he is with InfoWars. Nothing much more to be said there. But what interests me is everybody thinks, or I think a lot of people think, that Trump won due to political reasons, policy, what have you. But I would argue differently. I would argue that the media, in particular the right, has proposed a new outlook on the left. And on the left, in this debate, you have Destiny, a liberal. And if you look at him, it tells a lot. And I think it tells what the media wants to say. You have an individual, and I'm not speaking badly about him, I'm just talking about the image that is being portrayed. You have longer hair, unkept beard, loose baggy clothing, relaxed muscles, not well kept necessarily, but very intelligent. He looks like he possibly just came out of the quiet area of a library, which happened to be next to his bed. The guy on the right, completely different. Very well kept. Clean, cut, and looking good, except for those shoes. I think he tried to break the mold a little bit and went with tennis shoes. Good for him. Way to go, bro. So, let's get into it.
Was the vote certification delayed on January 6th?
No, it went through.
You guys filmed this. We can watch you guys cheering for it. We can watch you cheering 1776. What was 1776?
I know you hate 1776.
Wait,
I know you hate
what
that.
was 1776? What was that?
That was the founding of the country.
What was it? What was the event? What would you call that?
When we overthrew royalty and created
against the government, would you call
it a constitutional republic.
Can everybody hear that all right? Someone talk to me. I'm going to go with it.
Would you call that an insurrection?
No. This is your Democrat voter, right here. Nobody wants to be a part of this psychotic movement anymore. Nobody.
Psychotic movement when you guys literally tried. You guys invaded the Capitol.
Your side believes in trans kids.
Who wants to
Your
trans
side
kids?
wants to pay for trans
Most
surgeries
people aren't
in the
okay
prisons.
with it. You guys
Your
won't even
side lets
acknowledge
in
what
10
you've
million
done.
illegal immigrants.
Oh
Your
my
side starts
God.
wars all over the world.
I don't really consider the issue of trans a political issue. Again, it seems so cultural. I mean, this guy, this image, it is that strong conservative male. The other, some would consider weak.
Side is the party of sanity and the party of common sense. And if you can't see that in this debate, then you're never going to see it.
You're never gonna. The party of sanity is the party that doesn't believe in dinosaurs and thinks that we create hurricanes.
What are you talking about?
And that's another common one, right? That the individuals on the left are the intellectuals, where those on the right are stupid. So many common themes that are so well known, but not often commonly said.
Do you believe in dinosaurs? You think
What is
they're
this
real?
dinosaurs?
Wait,
What are you talking about dinosaurs?
Do you think the dinosaurs
Do you
ever
play
roam
with
the earth?
dinosaur
Do you
toys?
think the
Why do you
dinosaurs
bring this up?
Do you think the dinosaurs
Is that
ever
a
roam the
dinosaur
earth?
on your necklace right there? What
do you
is
ever
that?
think? Do you think the dinosaurs roam the earth?
I'm not here to talk about dinosaurs.
So I've written out a whole opening speech here, but then I realized that MAGA conservatives don't really care about facts, so I figured I'd just keep it short and simple so we can get to the crossfire section.
I wish he wouldn't have gone with that. I understand what he's trying to do, but I think he agrees with me because he does this 24/7. He's tired of it. But if he would have went with a different approach, for example, not doing that and giving an argument, I think it would have went better. But how often is it when you're hanging out with someone and ask them, hey, who did you vote for and why? Well, the individual answers, it was that piece of legislation, Ordinance 24, subparagraph A, highlighted B, that really sold me. That's what did it. And it's not, right? It's all about image.
I think the argument for Kamala over Trump is pretty simple. I think the number one point that everybody should keep in mind is Trump is a loser. He lost elections. He lost candidates that he supported lost elections. He's lost court cases. He's now a convicted felon. He has lost 2, almost 3 wives. We'll see what Melania does after the current election season ends. He has lost.
I really wouldn't bring the wife thing into this just due to the fact that it's so common nowadays for individuals to get a divorce. I don't know if I actually know anyone who has not had a divorce, except for me, who has never been married.
He's filed bankruptcies. He's basically lost in every single way that you can conceive a person could lose. He's lost as a leader. He wasn't able to pass any legislation. He wasn't able to do anything about the ACA, just like Sean's not able to do anything about this mic feedback. He's working on it. Trump is just, even if you support the policies ostensibly that Trump stands for, although that might change from one day to the next, he might come into office saying that he wants to destroy the ACA, fail to do that, and then now try to take credit for pre-existing conditions or price capping insulin. Even if you support him for whatever policies he says he does support, he's not the guy to do it. He couldn't do it when he was in office for 4 years. I don't know why we think he would do it in another 4 years. I always thought that the funniest slogan that Donald Trump had was using "Make America Great Again."
It is such an interesting slogan, given the fact of it's completely up to interpretation. What is that in particular? I mean, it is subjective. What does it mean? And when was it great in order for us to now make it great again, right?
He ran for office. What happened? I think that Kamala Harris is a winner. People might try to say that she slept her way to the top or make other
Thanks to John for the follow. Appreciate it.
accusations of nepotism, like what plagued Trump's administration, but the reality is Kamala Harris got elected not once, not twice, not 3 times, 4 or 5 times if you count her being on the VP ticket. She won her election for a district attorney in San Francisco. She won 2 elections for attorney general in California. She was elected the junior senator of California, and she was the vice president on the ticket.
I primarily stayed out of this political debate, this election, just due to the fact that it did not seem political. It seemed cultural, which in some ways can be more interesting, but I had enough of my own stuff going on, so my focus was not necessarily on the public. But things change. Here we are, right? All right.
Biden. So the difference is clear. Trump takes absolutely no accountability for any of his actions, and the people around him know that they have no accountability for any of his actions. When Donald Trump does a crime, what does he say? He says the judges are biased against me in every state court, in all the federal court. He says that I need immunity from criminal activity because I can't be prosecuted for it. I'm the president. He apparently believes that he can psychically declassify documents so that he can avoid responsibility for hiding stuff in his shoddy residence in Mar-a-Lago. There is just zero accountability anywhere. When you look at Trump and you say, why did you fail as a leader? Well, it was because of the swamp. Look at all these people I had to fire. Dude, you hired them. You can't take credit for firing people that were part of your cabinet. These are your picks. And again, to return to the first point, what's going to change this time? Is he going to magically get rid of the swamp now? He couldn't do it in 4 years. We're supposed to believe he can do it in 4 more. Even if you're...
Does anyone think anything is going to change this time? Anything at all? The tariffs? That sounds like a popular one.
Conservative. Why would you think that Donald Trump is the guy that's going to get the job done for you? Kamala Harris is accountable. Not only did she rise through the ranks and win elections on her own, by her own merit, not through any weird conspiratorial nonsense, not through any crazy MAGA movement, not by partnering up with creepy weirdo billionaires like Elon Musk, but by winning her elections and doing a good job. You can also see that the Democratic Party holds their own accountable, and they have a wide tent of voters that they draw from that they have to maintain their accountability to, as opposed.
It's going to be interesting to see what role Elon Musk is going to play in this. I'm sure I'm not the only one who probably thinks that he's going to be the one running things behind the scenes.
Trump's camp that is dwindling by the day, who we can go to the people who support Trump, maybe that'll come up at some point here. No one around Trump vouches for him. Where is Pence? How do you have a president who was the president of the United States with a vice president who's not running with the same vice president? What happened to him? Well, what happened to him was Trump was kind of hoping he would get killed on January 6th. He sat there and he watched on TV for 3 hours while people like Owen cheered others going into the Capitol, rioting, delaying the certification of the vote. He sat there and he watched it happen. He tweeted out that Pence failed us while Pence was in a bunker underneath the Capitol, saying that he didn't want to leave the Capitol because he didn't want rioters and people around the world to see that the American election, that the American transfer of power had been disrupted by a bunch of MAGA sycophants. The comments of even the people that are considered Trump's most ardent supporters today are comments that would get you laughed at if you made them as a leftist, right? You have a bunch of other comments. Elon Musk called Trump a stone-cold loser when he refused to say that he lost the 2020 election. Vance has a number of quotes about Trump. He wasn't sure if he was I think just a Nixon-type character, or if he was going to be America's Hitler. These are statements from his own current vice presidential.
The one thing, or not the one thing, I wish both sides, the one on the right calling those on the left crazy, for example, like it was said in the intro, and then those on the left calling the others, for example, the dinosaur comment, stupid. I believe that that type of communication that is now common has completely polarized everything. Everything.
Because he can't use Pence again because Pence hates him. Again, this is his vice president. Mark Milley referred to Donald Trump as a fascist. You've got all these people in his administration that were thought to have been the biggest supporters of Trump, people that others were worried about, like Bill Barr, who resigned from the administration with weeks to go before the transfer of power because they couldn't stand him trying to weaponize the Department of Justice so much. And then you look on the other side, and you've got Kamala Harris, who has support all the way from Cheney to AOC, from the United Auto Workers to Taylor Swift. There's no comparison to be made.
Does anyone think that Kamala Harris lost the debate? I'm really curious. It was the one thing that I watched and paid attention to, politically that is, just to see what would happen and to hear the general arguments. I thought she did fantastic. I think Trump's reaction being, I'm never going to debate her again because, she was so horrible, was telling in itself.
What people around these people are saying. There's no other industry where you would say, oh, that guy, his boss hates him and all of his coworkers hate him and everybody that worked with before hates him, but this time he's going to have a whole new set of employees. He's going to have a whole new boss, a whole new organization. It'll be way better this time, I promise. You would never give anybody that kind of.
Makes me want to take a poll of all my friends and what they think of me.
Trump is a scammer. Why would you want to, this guy who's running for office is selling you pieces of how many suits? How many fucking suits does this guy own? He can sell you so many different slices of them. Jesus Christ. $5,000 suit pieces. My God. At least he's big enough now that I guess he's got a lot of suit pieces to sell. That's not including the $100,000 gold watches. That's not including the $3,500 gold coins, the $100 silver coins, this whole new crypto scam that he started where him and his cronies have 70% of the initial coin pool. If you don't know, you'll learn in the future because it's coming up for the IPO for this coin. That's called a rug pull, my friends.
This is becoming a huge popularized issue. Finally, it had been going on for a very, very long time, but it is finally coming out into the public, which is good because a lot of people who aren't savvy on it, they see a coin, they say, hey, this is cool. They jump on it, they lose a ton of money.
To come out, and the price on that is going to go up and then super down as everybody that buys in gets scammed and loses all their money, which is, I guess, an analogy for all the Trump supporters.
There you go.
That I guess exists today. Trump has no policies. We don't get to have policy debate in the United States anymore because instead we're talking about fictitious hurricane machines that are being spun up so that Biden or Harris can steal the lithium deposits from North Carolina. We don't get to talk about how Roy Cooper and Kemp and McMaster and DeSantis all said, DeSantis called me. He already called me. The federal government's doing everything they can do. Instead, you've got people that are fighting with FEMA now outside their houses because they don't trust the government response. And then you've got Donald Trump on TV saying that he would withhold aid from states like California if they don't play ball with him, they don't play politics with him. It's insane. Every accusation that the Conservative Party makes is a confession to their own amoral behavior, and you can see it on.
Sometimes I wonder if he actually, and by he, I mean Trump, is actually sincere about some of the things that he says. He obviously does not mean much of it, because much of it, if it were to happen, bad things would happen.
These aren't even things that we have to dig for. You can just watch what they say openly. I think that Kamala Harris is just a better leader in every possible measure that you can make when it comes to, I think, leading the United States, when it comes to the future of this country. I think she's got a better vision for America. I think she's got a better record. Despite the claims of being a DEI candidate, she's infinitely more qualified for the position than Donald Trump is. And I think that she has a better overall plan for America than Trump does, whose plan, as far as I can tell right now, consists of basically shitposting on X and I guess doing a 20% tariff across the board.
He is good at talking trash. That is a skill.
My final quote, I would like to leave this quote from a very famous Biden speech that he made in 2022 that I think fits today more than ever. MAGA Republicans have made their choice. They embrace anger. They thrive on chaos. They live not in the light of truth, but in the shadow of lies. But together we can choose a different path. We can choose a better path forward to the future, a future of possibility, a future to build, a future to dream, and a future to hope. And I think that Kamala Harris represents that hope way more than Donald Trump, who
I think as long as the left continues to alienate the right, that's not going to happen.
Be interested in tearing down and attacking Americans rather than building anything great up.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Opening, Stephen. We'll kick it over to Owen. Thank you very much. The floor is all yours now, Owen, for 7 minutes for your opening.
That is not on me. That is something with the video.
Doesn't debate. Check.
Damn it, Kamala, it's every time. They just sabotage me everywhere I go.
Did you just use that? Check.
About facts during the course of this debate.
There we go.
Then you bring up his wives. Is that really a topic of conversation you want to get into? Wives? Yeah, I don't think so. He then talks about losses when I'm pretty sure you've lost every debate that you've had.
Right. That's why he's doing it daily.
So I don't know if you want to talk about losses either. You then mentioned Kamala being a winner. Maybe you can ask me a question. What primary did she win? What state did she win? Did she even get a single vote during the campaign process? The answer, of course, is no, she didn't. And this is the party that wants to protect democracy. He also says she's the most qualified to be president. Well, what are the qualifications? Kamala Harris has worked as a government employee her entire life. She's worked for the government. So yeah, if you want a permanent government bureaucrat, lawyer running the country, then yeah.
Here it comes. This is a great talking point. The fact that if you're part of the system, you're part of the problem. That was a great sell on the part of the right. I mean, they get it every time. It is an excellent way to make those who are in power the antagonist and make those who are not the protagonist. Although the fact is, they will eventually become the ones in power. At least in this case, it's true.
Kamala Harris is your person. I don't really think that qualifies you. In fact, I think that qualifies you to get the hell out of government, because I think we can all admit that the government is corrupt. I don't know, maybe he likes the government. That'd be an interesting spot to take, but maybe that's where we're at here with the American left.
Also, thank you for those who are watching. This is kind of a scary process learning how to do all this, so I appreciate your patience, especially if there's anything wrong. Yeah, thanks again.
Trump actually comes from the private sector. He knows what it takes to build a business. He knows what it takes to fail and succeed at business. He's been doing it for decades. To me, that actually qualifies you. He's somebody that actually has to deal with people on the ground. That's why when he goes out in public, you can tell he's a very relatable, personable person. When people like Kamala Harris or Tim Walz go out, they have to force it, and it's really quite an embarrassment. We have a rare election. We've had 4 years of a Trump presidency, and we've had 4 years of a Biden and Kamala Harris presidency, and the results are in. You ask anybody who's fair and neutral and not politicized, and they will tell you their life has been better under Donald Trump.
I wonder how many people he's talked to. Do you think he's actually taken a poll on that? I know a lot of people who would not agree with that.
Economy was better. Disaster response was better. We started no new foreign wars. It's amazing. The American left used to be anti-war. When George Bush was in office, when Dick Cheney was in office, when John McCain was involved in politics, they were all anti-war. And by the way, they would have called those individuals war criminals. Now they beg for their endorsement and they sell.
Whenever they talk about war, it always reminds me back when I was younger. I remember when Gore ran against Bush. Does anyone ever think about what things would be like now if Gore won? He had so many progressive policies in mind to enforce, like regarding climate change. I think out of all of the presidential elections that we've had, at least in my lifetime, that was one of the most important.
When they get it, they don't even know where they are anymore. So I'll take no more wars. I'll take a secure border. I'll take a booming economy any day over whatever the hell we've had for the last 4 years with Biden-Harris, where the whole thing was just a fraud anyway. Now it's coming out that these two never even got along to begin with. To say the MAGA movement is dying is to just deny reality. To say support is dwindling is to just deny the reality of the situation. Trump is actually doing better in the polls now than he did in 2020 or 2016 or any point in the 2024 election cycle. In fact, if you want to talk about poll numbers, Kamala Harris had the lowest approval rating of any vice president in American history. And they even wrote stories in left-wing publications.
I had an interesting conversation with the man on the street, and it was very curious hearing his opinion on women, specifically black women being in power, or, and I've heard this from other men, thinking that women in general should not hold positions of power. I've also heard it from women. I find it a very interesting topic that not many want to discuss, but it is something I'd like to talk about and hear about.
That the Biden team...
Gotta take a quick break. Can anyone hear the fan on in the background? I had to put one on the camera, and I'm curious if it's coming through. It's not registering on my end, but it will drive me crazy if it is on yours. Well, I guess we'll find out. Moving on.
Was thinking about removing Kamala Harris from the vice presidency because her approval ratings were so low. But as soon as the media says jump and support Kamala, they all get on board, just like that. Now, there's a couple misrepresentations in some things he just said. First of all, my activity on January 6th, and I'm sure he's well aware of this, or he just didn't do the research. I was not encouraging people to go into the building. I am, in fact, on video telling people not to go into the building and steering people away from the Capitol. So that's the fact of that. But let's just put something into perspective. The American left loves to pretend like they're the anti-establishment, yet here they are supporting the lifelong government presidential candidate. They love to pretend like they're the freedom warrior.
I'm still curious about how that event is going to go down in history. We'll see if it's seen as a good thing or a bad thing, how it's framed. It's going to be interesting.
Yet he's going to attack me because I've been attacked by the government. Yes, that's right. I was put in prison for my government speech. I was censored all across the internet for my speech. So if there is a freedom fighter on this stage, it's me, not him. Then he says hurricane machines. Another misrepresentation that comes right out of the mouth of the mainstream media. Are you denying that there are...
That's another common theme that's associated with the right, is that they are, well, other than crazy, I mean, that they believe in these insane, conspiracy theories. In this case, I don't really know exactly what has been said regarding it, but I do know that individuals... Oh, fantastic. Thank you, Holly. I really appreciate your feedback on that. But getting back to the cloud seeding, that is actually something that we do. And also, changing the climate can actually be a positive thing, especially in areas that are very arid. I mean, if you want to grow plants, if you want to grow food, water is an essential part of that.
Modification.
It can also really help us in the future. Further research as we travel to other planets, for example, Mars.
Okay. Of course there are. There are multiple patents for weather modification. I've even attended government hearings. This is hilarious. After the show, I'll share all of this with you. I have attended government hearings in the state of Texas, the Texas Weather Modification Program. That is a government program. Anybody can go to these meetings. I went and I recorded it live. You can pull it up on YouTube right now. I even know they even publish the chemicals they spray. Lithium, barium, aluminum, amongst others. Bill Gates goes out and talks about how we can blot out the sun to stop global warming. They've done mainstream news hits like on CBS with Professor Kariakou about weather machines. China has giant weather machines where they pump water vapor into the atmosphere to cause rain. This is public information. This isn't up for debate. And you notice how he hangs his head when I talk about this. So here we are again. Who's denying facts? So they misrepresent it. They call a hurricane machine to deflect off the fact that there are government weather modifications programs. Now, you want to talk about conspiracy theories? Did they make
I think what he's complaining about is the fact that I think he specifically mentioned the hurricane in particular, not general water, general weather modifications.
Hurricane worse? Did they not? I don't know. I don't claim to believe that. But again, there are lithium mines right over where Hurricane Helene hit the mainland. That is a fact. I'm not making anything up. That is a direct fact. So they can deny these things as much as they want. But that's just in response to what he just said.
I love that look. I know that look. I've given that look. According to Destiny, he does have ADHD. I think this goes beyond people with ADHD. But that look is so telling. It is the expectation of everything that he is going to say is known. That he has heard it more than once. He knows how it's going to end and what to respond with. It's hilarious.
Explain why I like Donald Trump. I like Donald Trump because I don't like the government, and the government doesn't like Donald Trump. I like Donald Trump because my entire life, politics has been nothing but corruption, lies, and scandal. And as soon as I was growing up and I realized this, I said, we need a man who's got billions of dollars, who can self-fund his own campaign. We need a
As soon as he was growing up, right.
Who has name recognition, who can get on a ticket and beat all the political propaganda. That man was Donald Trump. And then he did it. He did it in 2016, he did it in 2020 when they stole it, and he's going to do it again in 2024. So yeah, when I see the entire corrupt government coming after one man, when I see them trying to shoot him in the head and kill him, yeah, that's total confirmation that he is the right guy. Now, I'm not here to tell you he's perfect.
That is such a horrible argument. It's like saying, hello, my name's Charles Randolph. I'm very good at breaking the rules and getting away with it. Therefore, you should elect me as sheriff.
I'm not here to tell you I agree with all of his policies. I just know he's a man who's not controlled like most of our politicians. He's going to put America first, unlike any of our politicians in my life, and he already has a track record of making this country better. The mainstream media is corrupt. They hate Donald Trump. The government establishment is corrupt. They hate Donald Trump. So when the enemies of America are going after him, I think that's proof positive that he is the candidate we need. But if you don't want to go down those lines, we have a 4-year track record of Trump. We have a 4-year track record of Harris, and I think enough has been seen.
Yeah, we don't like the government so much, then just don't participate. No one's forced to get you. You don't have to vote for anybody. You don't have to run for any offices. Just, I don't know, fuck.
I love that retort. It's fantastic. It's saying, hey, you know what? I understand your confusions, your frustrations. It's so difficult. So why don't you just sit this one out? Let it go. Take a break. Just don't even vote. Accept it. We'll be here for you when you get back.
The corner and be sad and mad.
Come on. Come on.
Why is he selling 50 million different products? Well, funnily enough, that's just to enrich him personally. Whoa, hello? I guess those are just for personal enrichment, because actually when you go on those websites and you look and you see for any of the things that he, here, this is feedbacking. For any of the products that he's selling, all of those explicitly are marked just for him personally. They say they have nothing to do with the any kind of election campaigns at all. If you don't believe me, just go to the sites. Google Trump watches, Trump sneakers, Trump suits, Trump NFTs, Trump crypto, whatever. All of them will say they're not associated with the campaign. So I guess he's just personally enriching himself off of his election run. That doesn't sound not corrupt to me, but
He's got a following.
okay. When we talk, there's so many delusional conservative talking points. So the no new wars. Well, I mean, technically the United States hasn't declared war since World War II. What does no new wars mean? Was it no new wars when Trump bombed an airport in Syria? Was it no new wars when we assassinated Soleimani in an Iraqi airport? Was it no new rules when Trump peeled back some of the transparency on the drone strikes in Yemen that it took Biden to end? Was it no new wars when Iran was bombing Saudi Arabia? Was it no new wars when we abandoned our Kurdish allies to Turkish attacks when they invaded Syria? Is it what are the no new wars? It's like the weirdest game of semantics in the entire world.
That's another common argument that's on the right, that we should not partake in any activity that is not specific to the US. What do you think about that policy? I personally think that we do have interests. What happens on a global scale will affect us as we are part of this globe.
Absolutely, military conflict that was happening overseas under Trump, and to pretend otherwise is to be delusional, which I guess is to be MAGA. When we talk about January 6th, I see we still have this idea that the election was stolen. What happened? Where was the proof? Where was the Kraken? Why is it that people like Powell and Eastman and Giuliani and Trump promised us all this evidence, all these court cases? Court. What happened? Most of these cases had evidentiary hearings. There was nothing. It would be an affidavit of a person seeing something going into a mail truck and saying, I think that these are stolen ballots, with no evidence, without even knowing what a ballot looks like. You can hear all of this. All of this footage is freely available on YouTube. You can listen to them present their case in front of state legislatures, in front of courtrooms. Giuliani doesn't know Giuliani doesn't even know how to present a criminal case anymore, apparently.
I have to say, no matter what your beliefs may be regarding that issue in particular, if it was so widespread, I think that there would be more evidence.
You can listen to Giuliani when they were presenting it in front of the Georgia court, when they were talking about the State Farm videos, and they were talking about the ballots pulled underneath the from underneath the table with the cloth over it. I think half the people in here probably still believe that those videos showed something. They don't. 4 hours later, Gabriel Sterling literally showed the 20-minute cut from those videos where you could see that the ballots were just put right underneath the tables and then taken right out as they were told to continue counting because there were so many ballots that came in. Every single one of these weird conspiracies about election fraud, all of them were debunked within hours of them coming out. People still believe them. People still spread them. Because remember, when the truth isn't good enough for a person to make money on, they have to sell you a lie, which is what Trump's campaign is all about. It's about lie after lie after lie. Nobody up here is talking about whether or not cloud seeding is real. Nobody here is talking about whether or not you might be able to influence the amount of precipitation a place receives. People are talking about the conspiracy that you are alluding to, even though you're trying to be tricky and pretend you're not, that the government was creating hurricanes to steal lithium from itself. I don't even know what the conspiracy is here. Like, if the government is so powerful that they can.
I will say that Owen has a rough position, just given his spot that he comes from. I mean, he's coming from InfoWars. Already, if anybody other than those who watch it are going to be viewing him, he loses a lot of credibility just being part of that association.
Hurricanes that I guess got degraded into a Cat 3. I don't know, maybe they didn't have funding for the hurricane machine, I guess. I guess if they're sending hurricanes, why wouldn't they just buy the company or steal it that way? If Hillary Clinton is strong enough to kill Seth Rich and Podesta and them are doing satanic sex rituals, wouldn't they just like take a 20% cut of the company that was mining the lithium? Like, these conspiracy theories aren't even good anymore. At least like Jews doing 9/11 made sense because, oh, Israel's trying to get us to attack the Middle East. Okay, at least like stealing the oil made sense because, oh, you know, we have to go and we have to steal the oil because it helps our country. But now the conspiracy theorists don't even believe that oil is what it is. They don't even believe in dinosaurs. They think that oil is like a self-replenishing resource that comes from the fucking ground. He probably believes this. Yeah, it's just.
Oil is actually dinosaurs?
He doesn't believe. If you have conservative family members, you ask them, do you believe in dinosaurs? They don't believe in dinosaurs anymore. It's not a real thing. And oil is a self-replenishing material that comes from the ground. Yeah, Donald Trump tried to steal the election on January 6th. He created fake slates of electors. Every time you guys go to vote for president, you vote for the electors, and then they fill out their vote, and then the governors on December 14th, they say, okay, cool, we see the vote, we're sending it to Congress. Donald Trump had like 79 different electors attest to being the actual electors. In Michigan, these guys talk about, let's hide in the basement of the Capitol, and then we'll come upstairs and we'll fill out our certificate on December 14th to make it more legitimate. He had these. These are made. You can go online. You can Google them. You can look at them. They are fake slates of electors with people that perjured themselves. There's a reason why Giuliani is now disbarred. Sidney Powell is now disbarred. Eastman is facing disbarment. Donald Trump has 34 felony convictions. He's facing 3 other cases, and his only defense is, I need to have criminal immunity for all of my behavior. There's a reason why these people that say Biden.
Definitely a perk about becoming president, the pardoning power. Good deal. For you and your friends and family.
DOJ sit by quietly while his son is literally convicted of crimes. Meanwhile, Donald Trump pardons every single crook that worked with him.
Gotta say, hindsight is of course 2020.
person that refused to answer to subpoenas for the very investigation involving his election corruption, who came out and said to the media, Roger Stone said, I'm not going to squeal on Trump, and then he doesn't. He gets held in contempt, and then Donald Trump pardons him. This is insane. To say that this is the party of law and order, I don't remember when the Republican Party became so deranged and unhinged, where they cheered on people attacking police officers, where they cheered on a president who pardons military contractors who were accused of killing civilians in Iraq. It's just, Trump's entire campaign and legacy is absolutely insane. And I don't know why we would think, I guess like the central question I would have is, if you are a conservative, I can understand not wanting to vote for Harris or Biden. Fuck, Harris is a little bit too left for me when it comes to economic policy. I don't deny that. And I can understand if you're a conservative why you would be uncomfortable voting for her. But why would you think Trump is your guy? He had 4 years to do it, and he failed. The end of his campaign, the end of his 4 years was marked with what? BLM riots and COVID lockdowns and an inability, problems facing the country. And I just don't know why we would expect to see anything else.
It was such an interesting time with all the rioting. I don't know about where you live, but I live near Portland, Oregon. I was living there at the time. Many people left. Many people left. It was another perfect example of a white flight. So many left.
We'll kick it over to Owen for his 5-minute rebuttal as well. Thanks, Owen. The floor is all yours.
Okay.
Or you want to flip the switch, the horizontal switch.
All right. Wow. So that's funny. The last thing you referenced, BLM, left-wing terrorism, and then you mentioned all of the lockdowns and the mask mandates and the vaccine mandates, again, all Democrat Party policy. So now you're arguing for my side. And you mentioned law and order. If you look at every Democrat-run city in this country, you will find chaos, destruction, degradation, poverty, and crime. It's just a fact. So, okay, law and order, again, how can you be a Democrat and talk about law and order?
I do not know if that's the truth right there, but it does sound good, right? And that's why.
And everybody knows that the blue cities are the most dangerous places to live. You've already sacrificed the point on weather modification, so I appreciate that. You know, the problem is all of your viewpoints come from the mainstream media. And so I don't know when you've all of a sudden just blindly trusted government or blindly trusted the mainstream media, but it seems like that's where you're at in your life based off of the things that you're muttering and stuttering up here at...
It's so funny hearing this, because in the past, it was the left. You know, you were considered part of the punk rock crew that was on the left and hating everything that was right back in the day when you were a kid. Or I'm assuming, or it was still then. Now the fact that the Republican Party has become the new cool kids in town, it's an interesting switch.
500 words per minute. So I think that that's your problem. Now, Trump is the only person who got into government, specifically the White House, and lost money. He's
I love how there's like a little knock on intellectualism.
only one. Every other president, including Barack Obama, has come out with hundreds of millions of dollars, okay? So that's another fact. Of course, you would want us to sit out politics, because when we get involved, that's when you guys lose. But to say that I can just sit out and avoid the government and avoid politics, well, what exactly are you proposing? Yeah, I guess I could go be a homeless person in a blue city and live on a river, but I don't want to do that. I want to be part of civilization. I want to be part of the United States of America, and I have to pay taxes if I want to work and build something. I don't want my taxes going to foreign countries. I don't want my taxes going to foreign wars. I don't want my taxes going to illegal immigrants, non-citizens, and the list goes on and on. So no, I'm not going to sit out. I'm going to restore and reform the
talking points are so few and yet so emotional. These things have so much baggage attached to them. For example, immigration. It's interesting, and I suggest, if you haven't, speak to someone who is not a citizen. Their fear regarding Trump coming into office is considerable.
public. That's what we're trying to do.
And my point to that is it's always good to consider the other side and what others are experiencing.
And this issue, you bring up wars. There was no war in Israel when Trump was president. There was no war in Ukraine when Trump was president. Both of these wars have accumulated for more than $200 billion. $200 billion. I imagine at some point in tonight's conversation, he's probably going to bring up free health care or some other social service. Maybe not, but let's just say that he does, because that's what the left loves. When they bring that up, I would love one time for them to talk about all the foreign aid that we have allocated every single year. Billions of dollars, now hundreds of billions of dollars under the Biden-Harris administration. Don't talk to me about free stuff, healthcare, education. Don't ever bring that to me until you cut the foreign spending. You're never going to convince me to give any of that money until we cut the foreign spending. Then you want to bring these hundreds of billions of dollars back in? Okay, maybe. But all this stuff you brought up about wars in the Middle East, again,
I don't know how much we are giving away in foreign aid. I haven't looked into it, but one of the biggest issues that has always been part of our government is the pork barrel spending. Everything that's tacked onto a bill that doesn't even have anything to do with it.
Cheney, McCain, who all endorsed Harris now. They're all on the Harris side. So that one doesn't really hold water. Clearly, you did not pay attention to the 2020 election and the aftermath, because you don't know what you're talking about. There were multiple sworn affidavits. There were dozens of them. There were cases where they presented all the evidence. And in fact, there were multiple cases that resulted in charges, including in Fulton County, Georgia, Atlanta, where they were double and triple counting ballots, because that's a blue area, so they count them as many times as possible to run up the lead for the Democrats. And anybody who looks at the graph from the 2020 election results will see in the 4 key states, one pattern happened every time. In Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, Donald Trump was winning the entire day. And then right at 3:30 in the morning, in each one of those states, the perfect amount of votes came in for Biden, and the graph shot literally straight up. Literally. You are not being honest with yourself if you don't look at that and say that's...
Okay. So, in grad school, one of the things that I primarily focused on was research methodologies. And one of the common things that we look at is where we are gathering our information. In particular, if we're doing it from people, what population group? These are mail-in ballots. Depending on where these mail-in ballots are coming from, you could get a mass amount of one type of vote, either Biden or Trump. And I believe that there was an expectation already that this is what was going to happen. So acting like it's an anomaly when it's not is just dishonest. Either that, or they just don't understand, like basic statistical things that can happen.
Sort of an anomaly right there. When Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa both hit 62 home runs in the same season, the anomaly was steroids. There were vote steroids for Biden that year, and anybody who's not observing that, being honest about it, is just either not looking or, again, not being honest about it. So I think we're probably ready for questions now. I've just responded to all those comments.
Like, check it out. If I go to a construction work site and I poll how many are male and how many are female, I can expect primarily all male, right? Given the population and the geographic region that I'm polling from, it's going to be all male. That's just, or not all male, but primarily all male. That's just how things work.
Got it. Thank you very much for that rebuttal as well. We're going to jump into the prepared questions. So I'm going to read these as loudly as I can. And for the first question, of course, Stephen will get 5 minutes to respond, and then Owen will respond. The first question for Stephen: given Trump's 2016 border wall idea was labeled by
childish. There's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into making good immigration policy. But the reality is most people, especially conservatives, don't think that illegal immigration is a big problem in the United States right now. It's very, very, very easy to prove this, because if you look at what happened on the border, you saw that there was a bill in Congress to address those issues at the border. Everybody was on board with voting for this until Donald Trump came in and said, no, I need you to keep the border open because I need to run on this as an election issue. You can listen to McConnell talk about it. You can listen to Cruz talk about this. All of this is open testimony. It's not even testimony. You're able to say it to the media. Donald Trump said, I can't have you pass this border bill because it's going to make it so that I don't have something to run on. That doesn't sound like a very big problem to me. That sounds like politicking. Much the same, when Donald Trump was in office, Donald Trump didn't do any of the things that he said he would do at the border. He didn't get any legislation passed. He didn't make any.
He did build a wall, or at least got it partially done. Effective or not sure.
Substantive changes legislatively or through the legislature by working with them to actually effect any good border policy. He didn't get any money from Mexico. That was a complete and total lie. He failed on basically every single measurable outcome. He wasn't able to do anything. So again, if you think that the border is a problem, why would Trump be your guy to fix it? He did nothing except for what he could with executive action, and he's not able to lead the Congress in getting any comprehensive immigration stuff done. And the one time there was a good bill on the table that would have alleviated a lot of the issues with the asylum-seeking process, he shot it down. This guy over here is probably very keen to misinfo a lot of the stuff about the border bill, so I'll get ahead of a few of it because I know a lot of the dumb talking points, like the $200 billion in aid, the majority of which is used weapons, which last I checked can't help anybody with their health care in the United States. But for instance, when people talk about the border bill, they'll say stupid things like, well, that bill would have let 5,000 people a day in. No, what that bill would have done is if the caps hit a certain level or exceeded a certain level, the federal government would have been able to unilaterally shut the border down, which would have actually prevented more people from coming in if numbers got too high until the numbers had come back down. This bill would have allowed for more asylum judges to be paid for so that we could work through the backlog of people better. This bill would have allowed for more border security and for more people to prevent people from coming over illegally across the border. This bill would have helped a lot of the problems with the border, but Republicans were more keen to see a fight over politics rather than alleviating the problem, so I guess it was never really that big of a problem to begin with.
Thank you. And Owen, you have 3 minutes to respond.
Well, that's just a blatant misrepresentation of the congressional bill.
I just love the contrast between these two characters. They are so different, and yet so representative of what they stand for on a cultural level.
It was never going to permanently shut down the border. It was going to set a cap per day, which would have maxed out still over 1 million border crossings per year. And they love to play this.
I really respect his color coordination. Check out that watch. The gold to the tie to the handkerchief. Good form. Way to go.
With asylum. They're basically just rewriting the laws, and so anybody can seek asylum. Anybody can get on the app, the CBP One app, and claim to be an asylum seeker. This is not asylum. Asylum seekers go to their bordering country. That's an asylum seeker. These are people who are coming to the United States of America for free food, free health care, a hotel to stay at, and a free transportation trip wherever they want to go. That's why they're coming here, and they basically rewritten the laws where everybody is rubber stamped as an asylum seeker. So
it's so easy, excuse me, to take the position that no one comes here. But like with anything, if you sit down with the individual and it becomes, rather than a group of people, but a person, your perception changes a lot.
You can sit here and say, oh, asylum seekers. Well, anybody and everybody.
And I think that's not only what we do, like when it comes to these political topics, but we do it to individuals who hold different beliefs than us in general. I mean, so often we think we are completely different from another individual given who that they may vote for or who they align themselves with. But so many of our experiences, our life experiences, are similar.
From all across the planet can come here.
It's just easier to hate.
Claim to be an asylum seeker, and you're just rewriting the phrase and the concept of illegal immigration. But you're just wrong. It's still over 1 million a year on this bill, but still you're completely misrepresenting it. The reason why the Republicans decided not to vote for this bill is because it did include all the pork barrel spending. This is how corrupt Congress is, and both sides do it. The Republicans and the Democrats do it. They've been doing it for years. They just tried to do it again on the continued resolution, but they couldn't even get the SAVE Act passed. So they'll have a bill with a major issue. Let's say it's border security. And then they'll pork barrel funding of all these different projects, all these different things that a governor over here might want, a representative over here might want, a senator over here might want, and they toss it all into this bill, and they say, this is the border security bill, and then if you don't sign it, you're not for border security. And it's just a game. It's a game that our politicians have been playing against us, all of us, for years.
That is somewhat true. I don't know about his example in particular, but just in general. The things that get tacked on to bills are absolutely crazy.
So, yeah, I'm glad that the Republicans didn't do it in a rare moment, but yeah, are they still going to get the pork barrel they want? Yes. Are we still going to get all the illegal immigration that they want? Yes. So we still lose on that issue. Now, again, to sit here and pretend like the border was less secure or not secure under Donald Trump is just not being honest. The numbers are proven that the border crossings were down under Donald Trump. And every year since the Biden administration, the Biden-Harris administration has been in power, you've had a record number of illegal crossings. 3 straight years. And by the way, where are the 325,000 missing children that they have let in? Why did Kamala Harris cancel the border wall construction that was already paid for but now pretends to do it? It's because she's a flip-flopper and she'll say whatever she needs to get fools like this to vote for her.
This will be interesting.
Now a question for Owen. This has been prepared earlier, and the question for you, Owen, is, well, no taxes on tips.
No chance to respond. 1, he is not a fool. I'll respond for him.
Nor on overtime from Donald Trump may help many Americans with the current high cost of living. Many other Americans don't receive tips on the job and don't work at an hourly rate. Are there any blanket policies that would help Americans as a whole deal with the currently higher cost of living?
Absolutely. And in fact, Trump needs to go a lot farther with this. No taxes on tips might have been a lucky strike for Donald Trump since
I do think that is a good idea. I think it's a great idea.
the election will likely come down to Nevada, even more specifically Las Vegas, where most people work for tips. That's why Kamala Harris was so quickly to steal that policy, because they're well aware that Las Vegas could end up deciding this election the way the Electoral College might go. No, I think it's pretty clear. And again, this isn't a Republican thing. This isn't a Democrat thing. This isn't a conservative, liberal, left, right. This should be all Americans. Everybody should agree.
I do agree with that. He should make it a ubiquitous policy no matter what party. No matter what party.
With what I'm about to say. By the time it's all said and done, we're taxed at about a 30% rate. By the time we buy things, sell things, spend things, earn money, whatever it is, you're taxed at about a 30% rate. That is astronomical, okay? What we need to do is a flat tax, and I would just say just a sales tax, and that's it. We should have no income tax, no federal income tax, no state income tax, no tax on tips.
I do wish that we would have a solid tax reform. I do believe in paying taxes. I am slightly biased, given a health condition that I have, but at the same time, we do need to lower income taxes, at least, and find other ways.
To make a transaction without the government getting involved 5 times, reaching into your pocket and shaking you down like the mafia that it is. So if we need tax for certain things in civilization, we can have a small sales tax, and that would be more than enough to still pay for the roads, the police officers, and everything else. It would be more than enough. Yeah, we might not be able to afford all the wars overseas. Yeah, we might not be able to give Ukraine $200 billion and Israel $10 billion every time they come to Washington, D.C. Yeah, we might not be able to afford that. Oh well, I think the American people will be able to get over that, quite frankly. So no, I don't think it goes far enough. And this whole concept that I always hear these talking points from the left, oh, the rich don't pay their fair share. Well, what is the fair share? What is the fair share from the rich? They already pay the most in taxes by far. The rich pay 90% of the taxes, but this is still solved with a flat sales tax, because who's going to be taxed more on a flat sales tax? The rich. Who's going to be buying a yacht? The rich. Who's going to be buying a skyscraper? The rich. Who's going to be buying a jet? The rich. So it really knocks out all the problems. It takes care of the left wanting the rich to pay more taxes because they buy more things, spend more money, and it gets the government out of the middleman and the middle class and the lower classes' lives, where we're not spending as much on taxes either. So it's a nice policy to get a talking point started. It's a nice policy that could end up determining the results of this election. But this is beyond party lines. We are taxed way too much. We need to cut taxes down to almost nothing. And by the way, for all these people that want more government services and all this thing, why?
Let's take a look at this. Okay. So 0 to 11,000. Now, how many people fall into that category would be interesting. Probably the majority. 22%. That's where the money is at. And the 24%. That is middle class America right there. 37%. Interesting. And by 37%, I mean that is $626,350 or more for single filers. Now, what this is for corporate, it would be different. I'm curious as well, but that's going to take up too much time.
They just volunteer to pay more taxes. I'm sure the IRS would take your check, but I noticed that all the people that want more taxes, they never volunteer to pay more taxes. They want somebody else to pay those taxes, not themselves. Somebody else has to pay those taxes. So I'm not going to do the class warfare crap. Every single American should be upset at how much we get taxed. We used to throw tea in the Boston Harbor.
One of the big things regarding the tax, it is amazing how much you can pay in taxes and then not get anything back in comparison to another individual who has made less and gotten more back. You can tell there's a little bit of resentment in that area, but I've been on both sides. I get it, but something to consider.
2% tax. Now we tax about 30% of the money that we make and spend. It's over the top. It's out of control. We need to cut this thing down. And Trump just going after tips, payroll, and all the other things he's mentioned. I think Social Security, yeah, that's a nice start. Let's keep going. Let's keep cutting. And cut the government down about 98% too, and you won't need all these taxes.
Thank you. We'll kick it over to Stephen for
Cutting Social Security would harm so many people. There are so many people dependent upon it. And how families are now and are completely different from what they were in the past. Families are no longer together in a lot of cases. You have many people who are surviving purely on Social Security. I know, at least in other things that I've done, those who retired, they factor Social Security into their retirement income.
3-minute response.
In other words, they're dependent upon it as well.
So the unfortunate reality... Can you hear me? Yeah, so, I mean, like, if you have no understanding of economics, I guess we can say that a flat tax is a good idea. Allow me to introduce a very simple concept. It's called marginal utility, okay?
This is a really good point. I know where he's going to go with this. The idea of value from one individual to another.
What does marginal utility mean? It means that the next dollar that you have means a little bit less to you than the one that you had before. So what does that mean? Well, if you go to somebody that makes $40,000 a year and you say, hey, give me $5,000, that $5,000 from that person means a whole lot more than you go to a person that makes $500,000 a year and say, hey, give me $5,000. Because the marginal utility of the next dollar that you earn is less and less and less. Once you're making past 7 figures, you might not even miss $10 or $20 or $30,000 missing in your account because who keeps track of it? Whereas when you're poor, or when you're working poor, or when you're lower middle class, or even middle class, you do notice when there's an extra few $100s that go to a tax, an expense, whether it's childcare, whether it's whatever else. These are costs that everybody has to deal with. In order for our society to function, in order to support the successful businesses and billionaires that we have, In our society, some level of redistribution is probably required. Probably doesn't work when you have a society with some people that make billions of dollars, whether that's in the appreciation of assets or whether that's through W-2 wages or whatever, right? Millions of dollars through W-2s, right? And then you have a bunch of people that can barely afford to live in the cities that they are working for these people in. When I stream my stuff on Twitch or if I stream my stuff on YouTube, I'm not just relying on my stream and the people watching me. I'm not even just relying on the engineers that keep all of that infrastructure working. I'm also relying on the people that keep the buildings clean. I'm relying on the people that work as baristas and servers that serve the people food, that might work in these downtown areas. I'm relying on the bus drivers. I'm relying on the emergency medical services. There's a whole chain of people that exist.
That is a really good way to frame his responsibility to pay taxes because he's loaded. And that's a really good way to look at it. I respect that.
It so that I can do my job that I think it's okay to pay into. And anybody that's in America, a country that allows you to be the best version of yourself more than any other country in the world, I think that when you live in this country, I think that you also do owe a debt to it. And you owe a debt to the people that work in this country and keep it running. And the idea that somebody making over $1 million a year can't pay a little bit more in taxes to keep that country functioning is absurd to me. And then this idea of, oh, well, if you think it's so important, then why don't you just pay more taxes? If there's a stone in the middle of the room and it takes 10 of us to lift it,
it's just hard when you get that check and you see the columns and one of them shows what you could have made and what you did make. It hurts every time. I get it, but it hurts.
And there's, one guy saying like, hey, we should go lift the stone. He's like, oh, well, why don't you go lift it on your own? It doesn't make any sense, right? A few people saying, okay, well, fine, I'll pay more in federal income taxes doesn't really do anything for the country. This idea of the citation to the Boston Tea Party is hilarious, given that MAGA people are some of the least constitutionally respecting people in the history of the United States, whose president literally said he would terminate the Constitution because he wanted.
Pretty sure that they would disagree with that.
Find voter fraud. A guy who given a softball question by Sean Hannity asking him, hey, when you were talking about what you would do in office, that was a joke, right? And he's like, it was a joke, except on day one I will be a dictator. Okay, this is the.
I would love to talk to Destiny and ask him where he actually stands politically, if he actually aligns himself specifically with a party. I know, and I think I might have a few things in common with him, that my party affiliations have definitely changed with time. I don't necessarily consider myself a part of a party because things do change. And now there is so much attached emotionally to each party, so many beliefs that have nothing to do with politics, but have something to do with who could get into the Supreme Court position and change something drastically forever.
That you're going to talk about and then bring
on a cultural level.
Boston Tea Party. Also, the Boston Tea Party didn't happen because of no taxation. It happened because of no taxation without representation. The second part is important. We can consent to being taxed. We can vote on politicians that do taxes. We can vote on politicians that do spending. If you want to do something about the level of taxation as well, you have to pair it with budget cuts. This idea that Donald Trump is, again, the guy that is going to help you because he's going to cut taxes, where are the budget cuts? What are you actually cutting from the budget? And keep in mind as well that on the federal spending, 25% of this is in our discretionary spending. So when you're crying so much about, oh, foreign aid to Ukraine, which again, you haven't addressed, but it's like $20 billion in cash, not 200, okay? The rest is usually in the form of old armaments, so we have to pay anyway. Where was the spending cuts from Donald Trump? They didn't exist. So what, are we just going to continue to deficit spend 75%?
We have to move. Thank you very much, Stephen.
Can I get a quick rebuttal? Have a quick rebuttal?
The open dialogue. We'll have you open the open dialogue as we have 15 minutes devoted to it. This is your chance to start with that rebuttal right now.
First of all, what cities are so expensive to live in? Democrat-run cities. And again, he talks about redistribution.
Is this the open?
You talk about redistribution again.
When those cities are expensive, do you acknowledge that those cities produce more economic output for the country than all the red cities? This is what I mean when I say these people don't live in reality. But like, why can't you acknowledge that? Because you'll very quickly say things like, oh, well, there are more homicides in Chicago. Yeah, there's more people that live in Chicago, and Chicago is what makes Illinois all its money. That's where the money comes from, or the blue cities. It's not just blue states that subsidize the existence of red states, which is true. And by the way, all of those governors.
The town that I have lived in, I have never worked in. And there's a reason for it. There is no money in small towns. There is no production. Nothing. Any job that you want, at least to take care of a family, to own a home, you are not working in small town America. You are traveling somewhere to work.
So happy for the
Unless you're working remotely, I guess. Things have changed.
rescue plan when Biden was there to hand out money to shore up their budgets. But then when you want to talk about expenses and living and all these other things, now you want to talk about how blue cities need to be held responsible, but you don't give them credit for the economic output? It's
So
insane.
it's a nice deflection. So Democrat cities are the most expensive to live in, so I'm glad you at least acknowledge that. And again,
More
you
expensive
can
to live in the
always
U.S. than Uganda as well, right? It is, right?
So you can always volunteer to pay more, all right? If you want to redistribute wealth, you can be the hero, man. You can empty your bank account right now, but I bet you don't. I bet you're actually living pretty rich. I bet you do pretty well. And you want to bring up
I bet that Destiny is doing better than him.
the Constitution actually states when the United States government becomes corrupt, it's our duty to reform the government.
I'm
That's
sorry, what
actually in
article
the
clause is
Constitution.
that? Is to terminate,
Second of
suspend
all,
the
you
rules
can
of
read it
Constitution?
again.
Which Constitution are we talking about?
We live in a constitutional republic. We don't live in a democracy.
What do you...
I wonder if he knows what the difference is. There is a big difference. In a republic, a constitutional republic, we elect representatives democratically to then represent us in government. There's a difference.
There's a contradiction there. What do you think? Hold on. What is a republic and what is a democracy?
Here we go.
A democracy is where a bunch of lunatics like you can vote away my rights. A democracy is where 3 wolves and a sheep vote what's for dinner.
I said
What the hell is he talking about?
Article 5 or Article 6? I don't know what part of the
So you
Constitution.
asked what a democracy
So a
was.
democracy is when
We
multiple people vote. A republic is when you have representatives that do things for you. We are a representative democracy. That's why we're a constitutional republic. We are both a republic, which just means you're not a monarchy, and a democracy. This idea that we must be a republic because I'm a Republican and we're not a democracy because you're a Democrat is fucking retarded. Come on.
So again, we live in a constitutional republic where we have unalienable rights
That he just learned about.
given to us by God, the Creator. Democrats don't want you to know that
Love
because they want to be able to vote away your rights, like they want to be able to vote away your Second Amendment rights, vote away your First Amendment rights, and they'll go right down the line, okay? So that's why these people love democracy, because
When we
they
say
want
vote
to be
away
able
your
to
rights, are we
vote
talking
away your
about
rights.
abortion that we lost to a conservative
What
Supreme Court?
bill- what
Are we talking
bill
about the
of
Second
rights?
Amendment when Donald Trump did the bump stock ban? I'm sorry, how
a
were your
bad
gun
ban.
rights attacked under Biden?
It was a bad ban. I
And it
agree.
came under Donald Trump, so why would he be the guy, no offense, but a liberal from New York, which is what Donald Trump is, that's the guy that you want defending your gun rights?
So you now have
He looks mad. Nice.
President of the United States and the Vice President and the next would-be Vice President Tim Walz have all said they want an assault weapons ban, okay? What even is an assault weapon? Can you tell me?
A scary big black rifle that Democrats have been crying about for 30 years. They haven't banned it yet. I don't think they're going to ban it in this
Very
administration.
intellectual. By the way, what is a rich person's fair share?
What is a rich person's fair
good
share? I
question.
think that the level of taxation should match appropriately the spending that we want from our federal government. Also, the reason what you
It should be proportional.
an
What
assault
is a
rifle. There
fair
is no
share?
definition
So
for an
what
assault rifle.
is
I
a fair
acknowledge that.
share?
I don't want to ban assault rifles. Tim Walz and Kamala Harris both own firearms. Walz is a hunter. When was the last time you saw Trump with a firearm? I watched Roseanne, it was Roseanne, I think, with a firearm, right? Where she almost killed herself on a Twitter video with one? Jesus Christ.
So what, in the Bill of Rights, where is abortion mentioned?
Do you want to get into the constitutional legal construction of the penumbra of rights that are invoked when you try to
That was
get
a
like the
shift.
right to privacy
You
out
brought
of
up,
the 14th
you
of
said,
the night?
you claim there's a right to an abortion, it just
I didn't
doesn't
claim
exist.
there was a right to an abortion. Technically, the abortion right comes from a right to privacy, but we'd have to go over Casey and Roe, and I'm sure that you're not familiar with any of those Supreme Court cases, or probably any Supreme Court case. But the reality is that before you had a protected right to seek an abortion, now you don't. Republicans took that from you. Before you had the right to own a bump stock, Donald Trump banned bump stocks through executive action, by the way.
Which lost at the Supreme Court.
I recently had a conversation with a wonderful individual named Cheyenne. And she told me a story about her friend who was seeking pills for an abortion. And she could not get them in the state that she lived in and had to get them sent to her from out of state. And through Cheyenne, she described her friend's fear as if it were buying illegal street drugs. That change in perception regarding that medication, or however you want to define it, I'm just talking about the perceptual shift, is significant. I would have never thought about that, but then again, with where I live, it doesn't necessarily pertain to me.
Which what?
Lost at the Supreme Court.
Well, that hasn't stopped him in the past from going back over and over again to try to get cases tossed or to try to get
Hey
favorable
man, I don't
rulings,
live in a cult. I said I have disagreements with Donald Trump. So you can attack me on Trump's policies that I disagree with. That's not a win for you.
I agree I can't win attacking you on Trump's policies because he has none. I mean, what
I would agree on that a lot. His arguments were never based primarily, okay, I can't say all of his arguments, but many of his arguments were about cultural issues. And that's what this debate is all about.
Yeah, can you give me what is one Trump policy that he's running on besides 20% tariffs?
Secure border.
That's not a policy. That's
Cut
like
taxes.
an idea. That's the concept of an idea of a policy.
Stopping war.
Okay.
Transgenderism, that was another one.
What are Harris policies that are so great?
Well, the three that she listed immediately is she wanted to give a $50,000 rollover deduction to new startups for small businesses. So
that was Trump's idea?
What?
Trump did that.
Why didn't you bring it up?
Maybe he should have spoke it. I don't know if he's too senile now or he's lost the ability to do it. What?
You just weren't watching.
I was watching. Unfortunately, I watched too much Trump. That was one. A second thing she wanted to do was expand the child tax credit, which was incredibly successful under Biden.
Also a Trump policy.
It wasn't. That's why it happened under Biden. And it's why the Republicans initially fought against it. Are we going to say that pre-existing conditions in the ACA was a Trump policy now as well? I know that he wants to take care of that one. And then the third thing that Kamala Harris said is she wanted to do a $15,000 first-time home buyer credit to people that were buying homes for the first time. Donald Trump said he wanted
for illegal immigrants.
How does I'm so curious. How do you think these tax credits work?
You do realize that they give money to illegal immigrants to buy houses?
I don't think you know how any of this works because I think you were probably born a rich kid and you never bought a house on an FHA loan before. So I had a tax credit when I bought a house. The way that these work is you apply for these refundable tax credits when you get them at the end of the year when you've qualified for them. An illegal immigrant definitionally doesn't file taxes because they don't have social security numbers. They don't get money back from the government. So how would an illegal immigrant qualify for a tax credit? Again, this doesn't make any sense. It's like the hurricane
I agree.
machines.
It doesn't make any sense. This is the Democrat policy. I completely agree. It doesn't make any sense at all. So
Where are these lazy people that are coming over and not working and not getting jobs, getting the money for homes?
The U.S. government.
They pay them for the homes too? Then why even give them the tax credit? Why not just give them the homes outright?
Don't give them any ideas. They might do that next. They might actually do that next.
Where are they getting all these?
Yeah. Actually, they do. Who pays for the hotels?
He has a great way, by he I mean Destiny, has a wonderful way of showing that an argument has not been well thought out, that it's surface level, for example, a slogan, but there's no actual content behind it. In other words, there's a headline, but there's not an article.
At in New York City, in Chicago. Well, who's paying for those hotels? Who's paying for that room and board?
I imagine there's probably federal money allocated to people.
And where does the federal government get its money?
From the,
U.S.
from the U.S.
taxpayers.
Treasury, sure, yeah.
U.S. taxpayers. So you are paying for illegal immigrants' housing. Thank you very much.
Illegal immigrants staying in
Big difference. Big difference.
in hotels temporarily is not them buying homes with a tax credit. This is like saying we can do cloud seeding, therefore we've created hurricanes for attacking the United States. You see that it's a mutton belly. It's not the same at all.
I feel like it's bad form to debate on camera.
I've been telling Republicans that since the 2020 election, and they still haven't.
Anything that you want to bring up during the open dialogue, Stephen?
Yeah, do we acknowledge that Trump probably lost 2020? Have we gotten over that yet, or?
No, I don't want to relitigate that, but I would be happy to show you the results on the graphs where at 3:30 in the morning in 4 states, Biden's votes go straight up. Is that normal?
No, it's not normal.
So what do you think that is?
I think that just like every single person before the election said, there was an unprecedented amount of mail-in voting.
And they were all for Biden.
A lot of them were. Did you not listen?
Yeah, of course they were.
Of course they were.
And they all came right at 3:30 in the morning.
Because Donald Trump spent a year in the lead up telling his people, don't vote via mail-in ballot.
You are so
Do you remember
gullible,
that happening? Did you watch Donald Trump for a year say, we don't vote via mail-in ballot, we go to the polls and vote? And you know why he did that? We know why.
when these words like anomaly are used, it concerns me because when they are used in other fields, for example, like in research, it commonly means something completely different, and it does not necessarily mean that there is something behind it. There are statistical tests that can be done to determine if it is with cause, if that makes sense. If it's more than chance, if there is something behind it, call it a p-value.
Because Roger Stone and Manafort, two corrupt lunatics that Donald Trump has both given full pardons to, by the way, are on recorded audio saying Donald Trump is just going to declare himself the victor on the night of the election because he knows he's going to get destroyed when the mail-in ballots start coming.
And did Donald Trump declare himself the victor, or did he leave the White House?
Do what?
Did Donald Trump leave the White House?
After a failed insurrection, yes.
A failed insurrection. Who ran the insurrection?
Donald Trump and the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers and everybody that broke into the Capitol and delayed the certification of the vote.
Do you really believe that?
Was the vote certification delayed?
What is an insurrection?
Wait, was the vote certification delayed on January 6th?
No, it went through. They certified. Did Trump?
Hold on. I'm so sorry. I don't know who you're answering right now. Was the vote certification delayed? Was Congress called?
I gotta say that my respect for Pence definitely went up when he didn't fold to Trump. No matter what your beliefs are on it, I'm not even expressing mine. But that move, good for him.
Session on January 6th.
Yes, I think for a couple hours.
For several hours.
So by the end of the day,
why were they called out of session?
So by the end of the day,
you see how we can't live in reality? You see how this doesn't work? The country doesn't function when you have people
if you want
that
to go
refuse
back
to
and call
accept.
this an insurrection,
The craziest thing is it's all on video. We've seen all of this.
So
None of this is a mystery.
Tell me what an insurrection is. Just define it for me.
I don't have to define it for you. I'm just asking simple questions. On January 6th, there was a certification of the vote. That vote was disrupted by violence. If you want to get into what an insurrection is, you could say that it was a crowd of people that had gathered with a common purpose to use the means of violence or intimidation to disrupt an official federal proceeding, such as the certification of the 2020 vote, the outcome of that election, which is why it would probably qualify as an insurrection.
Okay. How many guns were at this insurrection?
You don't need a gun for an insurrection.
Zero.
Wait, the cops didn't have any guns?
Oh, the cops.
Seriously? You're going to say that there were 0 guns there? That is crazy.
That's right. They killed an innocent person.
Okay, I'm going to go a little bit further into this. I consider myself with a wide group of friends, both on the left and the right. My friends on the right and the left both carry guns at times. I believe in this situation, the individuals there would have carried guns. They were there with a purpose.
What did Ashley Babbitt get shot with? A slingshot? What do you mean there were 0 guns at the insurrection?
So, okay, so the government had the guns, so that's good. So that's what happens when only the government has the guns.
Just to be clear here, none of the people on the grounds of the Capitol had any firearms on them?
No, not a single one.
Really? Not even though the Secret Service said 80% of the people that were at the Ellipse just an hour earlier listening to Trump's speech didn't go through the magnometers because they saw people in the crowd that had firearms they didn't want to go through that all marched to the Capitol building. What, did they drop their gun off at a hotel? Did they give it to a friendly police officer? Did they find a fellow DC BLM guy to hold on to their rifles?
Not a single gun was ever recovered or on record at the January 6th insurrection.
Recovered or on record. That is a good way to put it. Interesting. I'm pretty sure they had something there.
What type of an insurrection?
How many pipe bombs were found
That's a great question, actually. Who laid those pipe bombs?
We don't know. We never found out.
We don't know. How convenient. The government can recognize somebody's earlobe in a video and track them down and go arrest them in the middle of a hurricane, by the way. The FBI went into North Carolina in the middle of a hurricane and arrested somebody, but they can't find who laid the pipe bombs. They have no idea. And Kamala Harris doesn't remember where she was that day either, even though one of the bombs was allegedly right outside of her office. She has no idea. She's changing her story. But what type of an insurrection?
No one is changing the story. You guys filmed this.
Kamala
from start
has
to
changed
finish.
the story.
We can watch you guys cheering for it. We can watch you cheering 1776. What was 1776?
I know you hate 1776.
I know you.
Pretty sure it was an insurrection.
What was 1776? What was that?
That was the founding of the country.
What was it? What was the event? What would you call that?
When we overthrew royalty and created
against the government,
would you call it a constitutional republic.
Would you call that an insurrection?
No.
No. 1776, the revolutionary. You wouldn't call that an insurrection?
So are you pro-insurrection now? You just babble and stammer so much, I can't figure out where you're at. Tell me what kind of an insurrection, when an emergency notice goes out to go home, everybody goes home and calls it a day. Is that
what kind of an insurrection ends when the leader tells his followers to go home? All of them.
Perfect.
That's kind of how it works. That's how a cult works.
So there was no insurrection. Trump didn't want to overthrow the government. Thank you for admitting that. That wasn't too hard to get out of
We
you.
can't even follow basic logic.
No, you just proved
1776
my
was an
point.
insurrection. It was a
now
revolution.
you're deflecting again to 1776.
I'm not deflecting.
So
I'm referring
Trump wanted to
specifically.
insurrect
It's just
the
funny
government,
that you stand
but he
outside
told his
saying
followers to go home.
1776 and go, well, is this really an insurrection? Well, I don't know. What were we cheering for? The Star-Spangled Banner? Was it choir practice?
Actually, they were singing the Star-Spangled Banner, something
sure.
you'll
They were
never
also
hear at a
chanting,
Democrat
"Hang
event.
Mike Pence." When Donald Trump said Mike Pence needs to do the right thing, what was he talking about there? What do you want Pence to do?
So in the history of the United States, there have been multiple times where a party rejects the results of an election, and all 3 times prior to 2020, it was the Democrat Party.
Really? You want to walk? Let's walk through
every
those.
election
Let's walk through those.
in
Do you want to go
this-
through? Do you want to go over when it happened in 1960 in Hawaii, when the only reason why they submitted 2 different slates of electors, which were both authorized by the state legislatures, because there needed to be a recount. You want to use that one, or do you want to go back to Ulysses S. Grant, the one that happened prior to the ECA even being passed? Right? Where the whole reason why that law was passed was because it was such a clusterfuck of an election. Which one do you want to go to? Do you want to go to Gore, where Gore he gave up that election as soon as he lost to the Supreme Court, where there wasn't even a delay in the electors voting in Florida, let alone a January 6th certification? The problem is you don't know anything. You have no facts for.
God, that was a huge issue back in the day. Huge.
And the strongest facts that you can attest to, you no longer can because you're scared of being sued again for defamation. So obviously, you're just going to sit here and ramble on some crazy shit. That's why you won't admit that 1776 was obviously an insurrection. That's why you were cheering it on outside when you thought you were going to be the winners of that insurrection instead of the losers. And it's why you won't admit now to obvious facts that are right in front of our face.
Every election in the 21st century, the Democrats have denied they lost.
Which vote
They denied
certification?
that Al Gore lost, they denied that John Kerry lost, and they denied that Hillary Clinton lost. And yes, they went to Congress and tried to stop the certification of the vote.
Really? What did they do for Gore?
That has happened every
What did they do
time.
for Gore?
And they'll likely do the
when did they
exact
stop?
same thing.
There's nothing.
When Trump wins in 2024, they'll likely do the exact same thing, just like Raskin has already said. The Democrats are already plotting not to certify the 2024 election because they know Trump is going to win.
It's fantastic delusion.
It's mainstream news. Anybody can pull it up on their phones right now. Jamie Raskin won't certify election results. Go ahead, plug it in. You got it right there, don't you? Yeah, it's right there.
Do you think Gogeta or Vegito would win in a fight? It's frustrating. I guess the saddest thing is that as much as I can't stand conservatives because I'm a liberal/progressive, at the very least, I felt like we were all kind of in the same boat. We were all kind of like the same country, and we were all presenting at least a unified front to the rest of the world. And as much as conservatives and Democrats might have hated each other, at least we were all Americans at the end of the day.
And when did that change?
When did that change? Well, a big change.
When Donald Trump became president of the United States. And they lost their mind because they couldn't control him, they couldn't bully him, they couldn't get him to bow down to political correctness, and so this is them, stuttering and spamming all over the place like lunatics, trying to get Donald Trump killed, assaulting Trump supporters, and lost their minds. Why do you think Elon Musk left the Democrat Party? Why do you think Tulsi Gabbard left the Democrat Party? Why are so many Democrats like Vernon Jones leaving the Democrat Party? Because this is your Democrat voter right here. Nobody wants to be a part of this psychotic movement anymore.
Psychotic movement when you guys literally tried. You guys invaded the Capitol.
Your side believes in trans kids.
Who wants to
Your side wants to pay for trans surgeries in the prisons.
You guys don't even acknowledge what you've done.
10 million illegal immigrants. Your side starts wars all over the world. Our side is the party of sanity and the party of common sense. And if you can't see that in this debate, then you're never going to see it.
You're never going to. The party of sanity is the party that doesn't believe in dinosaurs and thinks that we create hurricanes.
What are you talking about?
Do you believe in dinosaurs? You think
what is this dinosaurs?
Wait,
what are you talking about dinosaurs?
Do you think the dinosaurs ever roam the earth?
Dinosaur toys?
Do you think the
Why
dinosaurs,
do you bring this up?
Do you think the dinosaurs ever roam the earth?
Is that a dinosaur on your necklace right there? What is that?
Do you think the dinosaurs roam the earth?
States. And they lost their mind because they couldn't control him, they couldn't bully him, they couldn't get him to bow down to political correctness, and so this is them, stuttering and spamming all over the place like lunatics, trying to get Donald Trump killed, assaulting Trump supporters, and lost their minds. Why do you think Elon Musk left the Democrat Party? Why do you think Tulsi Gabbard left the Democrat Party? Why are so...
That is a good question. Why do you think Elon left the Democratic Party? Good question. Do you think he's seen it as an opportunity, given who he backed? That's my personal belief. I can understand why he did it,
Democrats like Vernon Jones leaving the
if that is in fact why.
Democrat Party, because this is your Democrat voter right here. Nobody wants to be a part of this psychotic movement anymore. Nobody.
Psychotic movement when you guys
Yeah,
literally
psychotic.
tried, you guys
want to
invaded
trans
the
kids.
Capitol.
Your side believes in trans kids.
Who wants to
Your
trans
side
kids?
wants to pay for trans.
Look how emotional these arguments become. So emotional. Again, not about policy XYZ, subparagraph A.
Surgeries in the
okay
prisons.
You guys
Your
won't even
side lets
acknowledge
in
what
10
you've
million
done.
illegal immigrants. Your
Oh
side
my
starts
God.
wars all over the world. Our side is the party of sanity and the party of common sense. And if you can't see that in this debate, then you're never going to see
You're
it.
never gonna. The party of sanity.
That was a nice soundbite. Give him that.
The party that doesn't believe in dinosaurs and thinks that we create hurricanes.
What are you talking about?
Do you believe in dinosaurs? You think
What
they're
is this
real?
dinosaurs?
Wait,
What are you talking about
do you
dinosaurs?
think the dinosaurs
Do you
ever
play
roam
with
the earth?
dinosaur
Do you
toys?
think the
Why do you bring
dinosaurs?
this up?
Do you think the dinosaurs
Is that
ever
a
roam the
dinosaur
earth?
on your necklace right there? What
do you
is
ever
that?
think? Do you think the dinosaurs roam the earth?
I'm not here to talk about dinosaurs.
It's insanity.
I gotta say, if he wants to hold that belief, he should at least go with an old Earth creationist perspective, at least publicly. Just talking about for PR reasons.
It's crazy to me.
You know what? You're a political dinosaur. You're stuck in the past. This is the future right here.
You don't even acknowledge the outcome of the last fucking election. How am I the one stuck in the past? You guys lost in 2022 for the same reason.
Everything you're told from the mainstream media. You're right. There's no government corruption. They don't rig elections. It's never happened. The government is great, guys. The government loves you so much, and the mainstream media.
So interesting. The Republicans, they're the new punk rock. Hell yeah, party on.
Never lie to you. They would never do that. Come
Let's say
on,
that I did.
duh.
Let's say that I did believe everything from the mainstream media. The mainstream media is a conglomeration of how many different large corporations with how many different editors, with how many different people involved that have how many levels of accountability, as opposed to
There's
the
about
alternative
six.
media, a company
There's
that you
about
just came
six.
from that's now bankrupt because the owner got
That's
sued
right.
for defamation
That's right.
for telling so many
The most
lies. Should I
anti-establishment
believe
free
Trump's
speech
camp?
organization in the
yes,
world
the freedom
is
speech guys. Yes,
InfoWars.
the freedom of speech
That's why
guys.
we get shut
True,
down.
exactly.
That's
Yeah,
why
it
we're
wasn't
under
for telling.
attack.
Yeah.
Of course. You want to know what happens when you speak truth to power? Everything this guy just said. I've been censored. I've been imprisoned. I've been assaulted. I've had my businesses shut down. This guy's dealt with nothing except cucking to his wife's boyfriend.
Damn. Man, he really went for it. Really went for it. Beliefs change. Things in culture change. The idea of personal relationships are changing now. It's an interesting time. You definitely have people who hold strong values on both sides. And Destiny is definitely an outlier. But to say something about him morally, I don't think is necessarily justified. I think you could make some inferences, but I don't know if they would hold water.
I see those 60 days in federal prison weren't kind to you. I'm sorry that you weren't able to do the podcast from prison like you wanted.
I wonder what a cell was like. How was that? I mean, when individuals like him, Owen, or others, like let's say Paris Hilton, if they were to get a cell, I mean, would they decorate it? Just imagine Paris Hilton's cell. I could see white couch. I think she would definitely go with white. I think that's her preferred style. Yeah. Stuffed animals, possibly. I don't know. Something cute. I'm curious and kind of interested.
I know that's still upsetting you a lot. Only one of us up here has been arrested for trying to be a part of a coup or an insurrection against the United States. Only one of us up here hates this country. And I think it's pretty obvious it's the guy that doesn't even acknowledge the results of the last election. One of the most important foundational pieces of the United States.
So
which
stop
is the
stealing
peaceful,
them. So
which is
stop
the-
stealing them.
Which is
So
the,
stop
no
stealing
one
them.
is stealing it.
So
no one
stop
is stealing
stealing
it.
them.
Why don't you vote?
So
Show
stop
up at the
stealing
polls
them.
and vote. Vote via the opportunities that are available to you.
For Q&A now. So we are going to have
He looks so pissed off. I love it.
the audience. The mic might go in and out just a bit. So
I might be switching back and forth with Owen. But we're going to have people line up in the middle aisle right here. This piece of tape right here, you'll see it once you're in line. If you could stand.
He's a big guy. I think he could take both of them.
Holding the lapel mic up to you in lieu of. So, if you have a question, please.
He should be in the UFC. Harris Walls. I wonder who his question is going to be directed at.
Question.
Might want to move the camera. That is hilarious.
All right, thank you very much. And I'll hold on to the microphone just because we want to encourage everybody, when you are asking your question, if you could keep it as pithy as possible, getting right to the question.
Are they going to move
Thank
them?
you very much.
Owen, on January 6th, when Trump was saying Mike Pence really needs to come through for us, what did he want him to do?
So, leading up to the 2020 election, in the name of COVID, a bunch of states changed their election rules, and they didn't follow the actual laws to do so. They didn't go through the state
Don't know why you would ask that question. I mean, what's the point? He's trying to get him with something, but take advantage of it. Ask him something relevant.
legislatures. So Donald Trump wanted to have those things reviewed in a legal process, and he needed Mike Pence to refuse to certify the results so the legal investigation could play itself out, something that's happened multiple times in U.S. history. So also, they wanted to review signatures. They wanted to review mail-in ballots, which we now know, thanks to investigations that have been going on for the last 4 years, some ballots were sent from empty parking lots. Some ballots didn't even have signatures on them. And in fact, the illegal votes that were now discovered in Fulton County from 2020 outnumber the votes of margin of victory for Joe Biden. So that's what he was asking Mike Pence to do. Mike Pence should have did it. He refused, and so the rest followed.
So then to reiterate, he was telling Mike Pence to not certify the winner of the election who actually won the election because of his delusional belief that there was voter fraud, of which you're admitting wasn't discovered, I guess, until years later, although that's probably bullshit as well.
Pull it up, it's mainstream news.
It's not.
Ask for both.
Yes, literally multiple lawsuits.
All of them failed. Literally every lawsuit has been demolished in every state court. Yeah.
All right, we're going to jump into the next one.
All right, for both of you, what happens to the Republican Party if Trump wins this election? He can't rerun, so what happens after?
Who knows? Everybody around the world, everybody in the United States is looking at the Republican Party for nobody knows what it's going to look like after Trump. If he loses, they don't know if he's going to run again. If he wins, nobody knows if Trump will just be happy to win and be a lame duck, or if he'll go full authoritarian monster mode and try to take apart as much of the government as he can, or what the Republican Party will look like afterwards, because the Republican Party has to fall in line to Trump, or he will destroy your career or destroy your media network. Two things he's done before plenty of times. Who knows?
Just real quickly, Georgia voting fraud allegations result in criminal charges. Georgia Bureau of Investigations, arrest made in Brooks County voter fraud investigation. So I can go on and on. Here's the 19 people charged in Georgia election fraud case. So it's a real story. But I'm sorry, did you say if Trump wins or if Trump loses?
If he wins.
If he wins. Well, I think what happens is probably the same whether he wins or loses. I think what Trump has done is he's basically remade the Republican Party, and so you kind of have the old neocon establishment type that you no longer see at Republican events anymore. George Bush is not a popular Republican. Dick Cheney is not a popular Republican. John McCain is not a popular Republican. Even Nikki Haley and Lindsey Graham get booed when they go to Trump rallies. So that's kind of the establishment right.
It is true. He definitely has changed things. He has completely reframed the idea of what a Republican is. I mean, he is the backlash of the cultural shift.
Will the Republican voter base and really the populism that is behind the Republican Party has now, behind Donald Trump specifically, I think has now taken it over. So I don't think that's going to change. I think future candidates are going to sound more like Donald Trump. They're going to sound more like Vivek Ramaswamy. I think the message is going to be smaller government, true conservatism. I think the message is going to be stop funding foreign wars, foreign aid.
It's not even smaller government. It's anti-government. It's pull me, a individual of the people, a billionaire, and let me represent you. I mean, the idea is that you are picking someone who is not part of the system.
I think the message is going to be bring back manufacturing, mostly common sense stuff. But I think that the thrust behind this populist movement is that we understand there's government corruption, we understand that there's mainstream media corruption, and we want a representative as our president, as our representatives in Congress, who know that, who talk like us, who think like us, and aren't going to be afraid to say it out loud. So I think it's kind of a permanent reformation of the Republican Party post-Donald Trump, whether he wins or loses this election.
I would agree with that.
Well, my question is geared mostly towards Shroyer.
I do think it will eventually swing back, though. Right now, we are in an extreme end of where that pendulum is swinging right now.
You mentioned no foreign wars.
The Democrats will eventually become the new centrist. Eventually, it will get there.
Trump.
They have to.
2017 on Inauguration Day, I deployed and we dropped a record number of bombs in a single deployment on Syria until our record was beat by the Truman the year after that. What do you mean no foreign wars under Trump?
So are you referring to the airstrike on the airport strip?
No.
Which one are you referring to?
The fight against ISIS during Operation Inherent Resolve.
Okay, so I would say that was a war that he inherited. I would say he didn't start that war. I think it was an inherited
I wish they would have let Destiny respond to some of these.
war. Now, you can argue whether you think we did good in that or bad in that. We could sit here and argue about the Biden pullout of Afghanistan. I think these were wars that Trump inherited. The decisions he made to try to end them, just like the decisions that Biden made to try to end them, you can debate. But he didn't start any new wars. So I think that's the distinction here. These were wars that were already ongoing for years and years. Past administrations, Obama, Bush, Republican, Democrat, didn't matter. So I wouldn't say that that was a started war. These were wars that he inherited. But I think that
it's an interesting argument because it's so dependent on when you come into office and what occurs while you are in office.
General perspective to understand is that you didn't have the massive conflict in Ukraine, you didn't have the massive conflict in the Middle East, which we hope doesn't engulf us now.
The argument that X wouldn't have happened if X was in office is horrible and absolutely crazy. How could you even predict that? I understand that there might be like a slight expectation due to the thoughts of what this individual in power will do. You can definitely consider that, but to think that it wouldn't happen would be crazy.
But they are now sending troops to both of those regions, and so I'd like to see that. I don't think there's enough being done by Trump either to stop these wars, to be honest. I'd like to see all these foreign wars stopped. I want to decouple from Israel. I want to decouple from the Middle East. I want to decouple from all of these foreign wars. I don't want anything to do with it. I don't even care if it makes us isolationists. We don't need the rest of the world. We can build everything we need here. We have enough energy here. I would decouple from all these foreign countries, internalize everything, and get out of all these wars to begin with.
Isolationism does not work. It just can't. I mean, think about a world war. Do we neglect what is going on? Do we, in fact, have responsibilities given our position in this world society? I would
Do we
say
get to answer as well or no?
If you're able to keep the rebuttals as pithy as
quick
possible,
rebuttal.
because
The fact
otherwise
that there were no wars going on is ridiculous. Crimea was still invaded and held by Russia. The civil war in the Donbass that was being supported by Russia was still going on. And in the Middle East, you had... The occupation of Crimea was 2014.
Obama.
Okay, was Trump not president when it was occupied? Exactly. And then the civil war in the Donbass, where Russia continued to escalate by sending in more troops and more forces. Did that happen under Trump?
So this is hilarious. They say Trump-Russia collusion. Can I answer? Are you
no,
going to
you didn't
start
answer. You're not going to. No, you're not going to answer.
He's going to start babbling like a baby.
That's why you're doing a ramble right now.
So they say Trump-Russia collusion.
Russia collusion. Holy shit! We got our joggers on today.
He just admitted
when it came to the Middle East, there was also still conflict in the Middle East. You had Iran attacking Saudi Arabia for the first time ever. You had the entire border riots, Great March of Return, lasted for about a year in Israel, and you still had all the conflict in Syria. So the idea that there was no conflict in the Middle East is also delusional.
Okay, so again, the question was new wars. Russia invaded Ukraine when Obama was president. Russia invaded Ukraine again when Biden was president, not when Trump was president.
I want to know you guys' opinion when Trump was president, when he tried to isolate America on a global scale from groups like NATO and try to go closer to countries like Russia or China.
Autarky is basically this idea that your country can be its own country and not rely on the rest of the world for anything is stupid. It's subversive to the concept of America, the idea that we are a global trading partner, that we can ensure global peace and prosperity through ensuring trading lanes, ensuring these giant multilateral trade agreements so that we can have access to other people's markets so they can have access to our markets. You saw what happened when the Houthis started shooting missiles at ships. What happened? The United States showed up and they said, hey, no more of that, and they shut it down. And trade through the Suez Canal continued. We wouldn't be able to do that in an America supported by Trump or Trumples because they believe, somewhat naively, that we can just withdraw entirely from all of the global world markets and still be as good as we are now, that we wouldn't be able to rely on any of the manufacturing from any other country, we wouldn't have access to any of those markets in the way that we do now. Like, why would we want to take our country back so far? You know who tried stepping away from giant unified markets? It was the United Kingdom via Brexit. Their economy is not doing very good right now, so I don't know why that would be the model that you would try to emulate for a country who has built so much success off of so much cooperation with the rest of the world.
The concept for America is actually independence, okay? It's independence. So yes, we can be independence. And I think we learned a lot from this recent port strike where they just ended it a couple weeks ago. We learned that most of these ports are actually owned by foreign companies. That's a problem. We should own all of our ports. We should make money off of all of our ports, and maybe we wouldn't have this issue. But I think that there's a general attitude here. See, I think conservatives versus liberals, if you hear what he just said, conservatives believe we can. We believe in the American people. We believe in American companies. We believe we can manufacture and produce goods, just like we've done for years. We used to have
I really don't think that the left believes that.
manufacturing plants in all the inner cities.
Or, that the left doesn't believe in those things.
And a man could get a job and make a living wage for his family and buy a home. They've all shipped those overseas. We can bring those back. We have plenty of energy here in the United States. We have innovations in energy. We can go nuclear here. We don't need the world. It's true. But that's the leftist liberal attitude is, oh, we need everybody. You need everybody. You need government. You can't make it on your own. You can make it on your own. America can make it on its own.
America. Yeah.
Hey, Destiny, I love the all green. Owen, maybe we size up on the jacket next time. But my question
That's pretty funny.
Go to.
I feel like Destiny should have worn like a Hawaiian shirt though. I feel like that would have fit it a little bit better.
That boy.
I'm getting there. Thank you.
And then there you go. That image that I was talking about, being a strong individual, being a strong man. That is the conservative representation. They are seen as the party of strength, whereas the Democrat has now seen that they are the party of weakness. It's not necessarily true. I don't believe it is true, but it's sold as that, and it's worked.
Destiny, you claimed that there was no money being given to foreign illegals for housing. They weren't buying houses. You're correct on that. But Christopher Rufo did a story $3.8 billion from the ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act, was given to the state of Colorado, who in turn gave it to Boulder, Denver. They gave $5 million to resettle migrants. 350,000 of that a week was going out to migrants to pay for them in one apartment building. This was the CBZ, owned by CBZ Management in Aurora. Huh? Aurora, right? So this was the same building that was taken over by illegal gangs. I'm wondering how you can sit there and say that there's no American taxpayer money going to these people when they're there doing it and taking over our country, literally.
Okay, so, I mean, there's a multitude of problems with the question, but I'll address the question the best way. I mean, if money is given to Colorado and Colorado spends that money on illegal immigrants if they choose to do so, I mean, that would be an issue that you would have then with Colorado, not necessarily the federal government. But also, you also said that they were spending the money resettling migrants. That doesn't sound like money spent on illegals. It sounds like money spent resettling migrants, which is not illegals. But if I take the strongest version of your question, I mean, it's pretty undeniable. I'm sure the United States in some capacity spends money on illegal immigrants. I know that we provide housing, we provide, I'm pretty sure, food stipends. I know there's like some card that these guys obsess over that asylum seekers get when they come in here and they're waiting for their court cases. Waiting time that would have been dramatically reduced, by the way, if they would have passed the legislation in Congress that they shut down because Donald Trump wanted to keep the border open for the election. I'm sure the United States spends money on illegal immigrants. I'm not saying they don't. I just think that the idea that it's just the illegal immigrants that we talk about are like fucking Captain America. Like, these guys come in and they have like 50 kids, and then they steal all of our welfare, and then they are buying all of our fucking houses, and then they're also working all of our fucking jobs, and they're like, I don't know how they can do fucking everything. I don't know if they maybe the reason why Biden did so poorly in the debate is because all the adrenochrome was going to the crazy, legendary fucking illegal immigrants or whatever. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm sure we spend money on illegals. I wish we had comprehensive immigration reform. I do think that spending money on America is important, and I think that's a good argument. I think that when you look and you see, okay, well, even if it wasn't $200 billion, Destiny, it was $20 billion. Why are we spending $20 billion in Ukraine when my neighborhood is fucking falling apart, or my city doesn't have the money to pay for these things that I think are important? I think these are good questions. Okay. Democrats are not the ones that are trying to cut funding from schools and from cities and from infrastructure and from healthcare. When the fuck was the last time you heard a Republican say, we need to stop funding the war in Ukraine so that we can fund single-payer healthcare? We need to stop giving money to Israel so that we can do something about the homeless or the drug addicted or the mental illness in society. It's never like that. We need to stop funding here, and then we need to cut as much spending domestically as possible so that the fucking free market is going to take care of your problems? What, is Bezos going to walk you to the fucking ER and pay for your medical bill? Like, it's just insane. So I agree. I can understand. Like, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. The United States is a huge federal budget. We can pay for a lot of things. And I do think that sometimes our spending is a bit sad. But when you look at who's taking money away from spending on things like healthcare or childcare or any of the multitude of things that we need money spent on in this country, it's not Democrats. It's fucking Republicans. And the idea that cutting funding to some foreign war would all of a sudden open their hearts to domestic spending on welfare is ludicrous.
Okay. It has been just about 2 hours. I'm going to call this good. Thank you for watching. To all those who have, definitely things have been learned, and things will continue to improve. I'll set up a schedule and stream consistently on it, and I hope to see you again. Thank you.